Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Spiritual Funbags. My name is Bernadette Brighton, and I'm also here.
With Isabel. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hey everyone, and thank you for listening. So today we are very excited. I am especially excited. I'm trying to speak slowly so I can get it all out because today we are doing an episode based on the Hunger Games books and movies and how it relates to living a life purpose. And I'm incredibly excited because I'm a total fan and I'm going to be geeking out about this whole thing. So poor Isabel is going to have to take kind of a back seat during the episode. But one thing that she has been she's going to bless us with is an amazing Hunger Games themed meditation at towards the end of the show. So hope you all are looking forward to that. I know I am because I haven't heard it yet, so I'm very excited to see what comes through. I'm sure it's going to bring a lot of hope and a lot of light, as of course the main character does in the movies. So we're very excited to get into that, and also want to remind everyone that we are chatting live in our Facebook group. We have a private group, and it is facebook.com/groups/SF Fun Group. So you can head over there and you can chat with us because I'll be doing a bit more of the talking at the start of the show. You'll be chatting with Isabel for a little bit, and then when it's time for me to jump on, I will pop in there as well. So if any of our friends are in there right now, just wanted to say hello to everyone. And thank you for listening. Okay, yeah, that's the intro, right?
It's very good.
You're very
Yes.
excited. Okay, cool. We can dive right in. We're going to dive right in. So I wanted to talk about the Hunger Games today, besides just being able to talk about it forever, which I can do. Because to me, it's a very inspiring movie, and it's also actually very inspiring for in real life as well. For anyone that doesn't know, if you don't follow global events, out in Thailand, there was a military coup there last May, and they are using the Hunger Games Three Finger Salute as a symbol of protest there. So it's a movie that's actually inspired some real life events and inspired some change. So I think to me it's kind of touching, right? You know, when
Yeah.
art imitates life and life imitates art like that, and so you actually have, you know, it's not just kind of this pop culture thing. It's not just a teen thing. It's not a young adult thing. It's something that's kind of touching all these different aspects of everyone's life. So I thought it was a very timely and an inspiring message to jump into. So what we're going to do today is just talk about really the movies. You know, I know that obviously the movies are based on some books, but I figured culturally speaking, it's a lot easier and quicker to just catch up on the movies and to get informed. It's a lot quicker to do than it would be to kind of read through all the books, right? So we're going to kind of just stick to the movies, and movies have a real emotional impact. You know, for me, I get excited about movies and television and all different forms of entertainment, so I really connect with that. And for anyone that's listening, you know, that's just another reminder that messages and inspirations for your own life purpose can kind of come from anywhere, right? You know, and it might come through music, it might come through poetry, it might come through books. You know, it can come through in all different ways. So whatever way relates to you the most is where you'll find your signs and your guidance and all those different aspects. So we will talk about the movies, and I just kind of wanted to sort of, you know, kind of like level set everybody in terms of what a life purpose is and what it really means. And then we're going to kind of tie it into all three of the different movies. And I should say up front, you know, there's some spoiler alerts. The three movies are out of, it's a four-part trilogy, right?
Hmm.
You do the math on there. But so we have three movies that are out. I'm sure, you know, Mockingjay Part 1 just came out at the time of this broadcast. So, you know, there might be some spoilers. So if you want to just, yeah, I'm giving you the friendly warning now that those are coming. We'll talk about what actually happens and how this whole story ends as well, because that's a part that relates to everyone's purpose. Okay, I think that covers all of our housekeeping.
Yes.
Right. So let's just talk about life purpose for a moment and cover what that means, right? So the word life and life purpose means like while you're alive, right? And you're this life that you have here, and we mean this particular lifetime. And so before you're born, you kind of set up with your guides, your angels. Our friend Archangel Michael, the life purposing angel, as we renamed him on our first episode. You kind of create like this plan. It's, you can imagine sort of like a round table and everyone's sitting around, and you plan out what you're going to do here while you're actually alive on the planet. Everybody here that's alive has some personal life purpose. They're here for a reason, and it can be anything from just sort of letting their soul take a vacation, right? So they might incarnate as somebody who's extremely wealthy and gets to just travel all the time, which is really great. They might have a life purpose of just, having a family, right? Something kind of intertwined and just close, and having a wonderful small community. And so that's just whatever it is they're here to learn. They might be here to learn just about forgiveness. They might be here to help someone else learn forgiveness. There's all different aspects of like a personal life purpose and the personal life lessons. Isabel, did you have anything?
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And it could be like, life purpose can be, you can have a purpose, that's just for yourself, and then a purpose, that kind of engages a lot of people as well, right? And it's perfect. We're talking about the Hunger Games today because I'm sure you're going to get into it and the role of, the main character, and her name is Katniss, and you'll describe to us, like what she goes through, and you're going to see that sometimes a life purpose can impact a lot of people, but it is not just for everyone, right? We can have a life purpose that's simply to be like an amazing, I don't know, an amazing teacher to the little kids, right? To the little ones. We have many, many different roles, and the some of us, like some of the souls that incarnate on this earth, we call them, and we're going to go into like Bernadette and I were talking about this before, but we're not going to literally go into like labels, but I just want to give a name to a generation of people that had come into this earth, and we had called them light workers, right? So a person that was defined as a light worker, so for some of you that resonate with this, is someone that not only do you have a personal life mission, so let's say you're supposed to learn about something, right? You're figuring something out on your personal level, whatever that is. And also, so in addition, you have a life purpose that's impacting other lives, other people. So oftentimes you feel like you want to help a lot of people, you feel like you want to help the world, you feel like you want to help nature, you want to help Mother Earth, you feel like you want to help animals. And oftentimes the way you know those things is there's a few like telltale signs. Like for example, are you someone that people always come to you and confide to you, right? They feel always very comfortable in your presence. You almost feel like a little bit of not a therapist, but people are going to tell you like, wow, I was never so comfortable. You're the only one I ever told that to, right? So people really get that comfortable feeling, and then you tend to feel like you really want to help in whatever shape that takes, okay? And sometimes that's what takes a little while, right? To figure out why and what is it that's driving you. And so maybe, Bernadette, like, can we talk about, how Katniss like comes into that role for her? Like what happens to her?
Yeah, that sounds great. So, just in a quick note on that to bring comfort to anybody that looks around and sees other people that don't have that global purpose. Just know not everyone has the global purpose, right, in front of
Exactly.
them. So I know for me personally, sometimes it would really affect me if I'm trying to bring forward all kinds of changes and stuff, and then you see other people that might seem apathetic or don't care. And you shake your head, and your hands, everything shakes, and you just say, why isn't everybody, jumping on board this train, right? So,
We all have a different role,
right,
right?
exactly.
Exactly.
It's a much broader picture and spectrum. So for Katniss and how she comes into her role, you can see that she incarnates, right? She comes into this family that's they're not well off, right? They're in a mining town, not a lot of money, it's called the Hunger Games because everybody's pretty much starving, and all of the food that they grow, all the labor that they do, all the work that they put into goes into the capital of this autocratic society, right? Where it's a very controlling government,
Yeah.
and she kind of just comes into it. She comes into her overall purpose, which she finds out later, is just by volunteering to take the place of her sister, who is going to be sent into what's called the Hunger Games, and that's just it's basically like a contest where children from all two children from each one of the districts in this fictitious country are chosen, kind of like by a lottery system called the Reaping, and so her sister gets chosen. So Katniss just stands up and says, "I volunteer." And, so from a spiritual perspective, right, one thing that happens when you come to Earth, it's actually not really a requirement. That's not something that people have to do. So for people that have that global purpose, that's something that you volunteer for. You don't get pushed into it. So that's just kind of
That's
a
a great
reminder,
point.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
a great point. Yeah, absolutely.
it's a reminder that that's why doing your life purpose does feel so joyful, because it's kind of like that balance. And I'm going to use the word reward. I'm not sure if that's exactly the word that would be used here, but it's kind of like that balance of, this is, when you're full of joy and you're living your purpose, that's when you know that you're right on track. So it's something that you volunteer for. And trust me, I know that there are some people shaking their heads thinking there is no way I volunteered for this, because sometimes, the spiritual healers and the spiritual teachers, they have, their own lessons that they go through so that they can help others. And God is the most painful thing, right? When your
Yeah.
life just, and you have that moment where everything has fallen apart and you're trying to pick yourself back up together, which is something that Katniss actually goes through. So her overall purpose, and again, here come the spoilers. She goes from someone in the first movie, the first film, she volunteers for her sister, so that her sister can live, and she takes her place. And you can see this look on her face after she volunteers of, it's this moment of passion, and then later she kind of steps back and thinks, oh God, what did I do? Her face
Yeah.
is just fallen, and it takes her a while to even just mentally adjust to the fact that, she's on a journey she might not return from. So you have that moment, and I think we all have that moment living our purpose too, where, someone said, hey, come down to Earth, do all this great and fun, exciting things. Look how much fun you're going to have when you're living your purpose. And then you start getting into it and you go, oh, this is what I volunteered for? Holy shit. I don't know if
Yes.
this is a good idea. So, right?
Yeah.
So kind of we see that in Katniss's journey, and then in the second film, actually, she kind of has it. Her purpose of dismantling this government, is her overall purpose of giving people hope, right?
Yeah.
Empowering people, having them find their own empowerment. That comes through. And in the second film, she's actually chosen again to go through the second round of a Hunger Games, contest, and that's actually orchestrated behind the scenes. So that's not something she volunteers for. She actively doesn't want to do it, and kind of tries to run away from it. But then she gets sucked back in, and again, I think sometimes our life purpose can feel that way as well, where you just like you start in with that volunteering and you make it. In the first movie, she succeeds by doing things her own way. She does what she came here to do. She uses all of her tools, all of that background knowledge. She grows up hunting in the woods, so she becomes accustomed to living off the land and surviving in the woods and things like that. So she does succeed, and then she thinks she's going to have kind of a happy, easy life, and everything kind of comes right back up at her, even bigger, though. It's going to be even more challenging this time, right?
Yes.
And yeah, Isabel, do you want to mention that kind of
Yeah,
an
no,
experience?
absolutely. It is more challenging. And the one thing that I would say is too, like in the second movie, we feel a little bit of the injustice and whatever she feels, towards the people that are running that game, right? Which happens to be, the government. And I think, sometimes there's like nice symbols, right? What you see in movies sometimes depict, certain symbols that we might encounter in our everyday life. And you can feel, that drive that she has to me, like, and I'm what I feel is like, she kind of fights for justice in her own way, like how to make it right, how to make it true, right? How can she speak her truth and still like remain true to herself as she's living that life purpose and still having to do and go through, I'm going to say the word sacrifice, right? Because in the game, she still has to survive, right? Some people do lose their life in order for someone, to win those games. And it is definitely challenging, and even when you live your life purpose, there's some moments you're like, yeah, oh my God, what did I sign up for? Yes, it's awesome. Yes, it's exciting. But yes, sometimes there might be some sacrifices that come with that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I would say it's interesting. So, in terms of sacrifice, when you craft your life purpose, you actually sometimes it's connected to other people, right? So you have your soul support group, and you have soul buddies and soul mates, and soulmates can be the romantic kind and also the not romantic kind, just like family members and people that are really close to you.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting about the people that she brings in is you see early on in the first movie, PETA, who would later help her out in the first games and throughout the entire series, and eventually they fall in love, etc. Their first encounter was he just tosses her a loaf of bread because he's a baker's son, and he burns the bread on purpose. He gets punished for it. He gets a black eye, and his mother's really upset, right? It costs them some money there, and he tosses her the loaf of bread and ends up saving her life that night. And that sparks Katniss's desire and passion to keep herself and her family alive, because at that point she'd pretty much just given up. And so it's that one little moment and that one little random act of kindness there that kind of brought that life back into her, and then she goes and becomes kind of the breadwinner of her family. In the books and in the movies, her father had died in a mining accident, so she ends up having to kind of take over for the whole family and be the strong one. And so I think we definitely see that in our own journeys, right? Where you meet someone by happenstance, and then later, they end up being one of the most important people in your life, and they
Yeah.
help you out more than anyone, and you'd be surprised. Some folks, you might just have someone that's a coworker who isn't very spiritual, but they're the person that sticks by you no matter what,
That's true.
and is there to remind you, of how well you're doing, or your own family members. Sometimes you might struggle. A lot of young people struggle when they have this spiritual lifestyle that they might not fit in with their families, and it's kind of hard because they're out on the edge, but it's their brother or it's their sister that comes to their defense on Thanksgiving when they're not in the room.
Nice. Yeah, that's true. So it's so cool. Like I love how you just said that. It's kind of like you're not alone, right? To
Absolutely.
understand that in truth, right, there's always some people that are going to support you, and it can take many shapes and forms, right? It could be anyone around you, which is
Absolutely.
that's beautiful. I love how you said that. I
Oh,
never thought
thank
of
you.
that. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're
Thank you.
welcome.
See? Glad to be doing this show with you. No, this is really cool. It's true. You're never alone. As
Yeah,
you're talking, I just realized it's true your whole life. Like, it's so interesting how everything just falls in place to support you, to give you the most chances for you to live your life purpose. Because in truth, that's what your soul is thriving for, right? That's where your soul is here to incarnate it, to figure out and learn about yourself and keep doing those things that you are meant to be doing, which sometimes, brings up, some fears, just like Katniss, right? She took on that role and then it's like, oh my God, what did I do? But then she really steps into it and then all the help is there for her. Well, she
absolutely.
still has a lot of courage, though, I would say.
Oh, sure.
Oh, that's a great point. You know what? It does take courage, I think, to step into your life purpose sometimes because it's not the most easy sometimes, although
Right.
sometimes it kind of falls in your lap, but she does have the courage and, to do this.
Absolutely. Yeah, and one other piece of the sacrifice piece, and it'll kind of tie in with the courage here, is sometimes you have people that incarnate into your lifetime to help you grow, but on the surface it looks terrible. Right?
Yes.
If you can think of somebody, the people that have hurt and abused the most, um, if you open your heart to that spiritual learning and growth lessons, for me, I know there have been a few people in my own life where I look back and I think like that soul loved me enough to come in and play this really, really bad guy,
That's right.
and I'm
Yeah.
sure usually, I always hold this hope that every human heart, has that compassionate, empathetic, awakening moment. And I kind of figure people, you always hear of stories on people's deathbed, right? They have that moment of realization and awakening. So I actually get nervous for the people that play the bad guy role in your life because they're going to come to that moment where it's just like, oh, holy cow, did I do something that didn't really feel good to somebody else? Oh, that sucks.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so there's an aspect of having a lot of compassion for those people, and you don't always have to keep them in your life, right? But just
That's
that
right.
aspect of forgiveness. So
Yeah, and they'll come into your life. And it's funny, you bring this up, and there's a really nice quote from, and I'll post it on our on the Facebook group page in a minute, from Neil Donald Walsh. Is the gentleman that wrote the whole series of book called Conversations with God.
mhm,
And one of his book is called Home with God. And in there, he explains, how the soul, how we transition, to the other side and what happens. And one of the things he explained is that every soul has an agenda, meaning we're all here to help each other no matter what role is taken on. So, yes, if you need to learn about forgiveness, you might be faced with some really, really harsh events or people in your life in order for you to grow in as a soul and learn what you were meant to be learning with, forgiveness. So, yes, every soul, we are all here to help each other, but yes, sometimes it's not in the most light, right?
yeah,
It's hard. It's hard.
yeah,
And I'll post that in a second. So you guys, if
great.
you want to look it up, and if that resonates with you, more than welcome to look up some of those books. They're really, really good.
Very cool. Yeah. And so I would say in those times, that's kind of when courage really comes through. And that ties into a few different aspects. Yes, when, Katniss has, there are so many moments where I think she just has enough fire in her personality and just, quite frankly, just gets so pissed off at being told,
Yeah.
at just being
Yeah.
told what to do, or that feeling of being controlled. There's actually, of all the three movies, where we're at right now, my favorite is the first one because it's so simple in its beauty. Besides
Yes.
the nature, there's that conversation between Katniss and Peeta the night before they're actually going into the Hunger Games, and Peeta is just saying that he doesn't want them to change him. And you'll see, so they go through the Hunger Games and they kind of have to put on this act that they love each other to stay alive. And then they do that same thing in Catching Fire. And then even in the Mockingjay Part 1, they're kind of playing this game of sort of, you're lying, but you're kind of being honest. And so you're kind of playing that game, but there's that courage and just kind of being yourself and being out in the world, right? To really
Yes.
make a change. And I think for some people, the more esoteric you go, the harder it can feel sometimes, where you know that you have these really cool gifts to share with the world, but oh God, you're so afraid that someone's going to judge you, or that, people will look at you like you're crazy, or you have, you might just be really ahead of your time, and then people might judge you. They're not ready for that yet. So having that courage to kind of step up and step out is something that's there for you,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, and speaking of that, if you feel you could use a dose of courage, Archangel Michael again is the dude to call on for that boost, right? To help you feel safe when you need to kind of step out into the light. And Archangel Gabriel is a messenger angel, so if you're somebody that's stepping out and speaking, it's also another great being to kind of call upon. So we do have that courage, and part of what I love about Katniss is courage, bravery, and all those other beautiful adjectives that you could apply to this one character is that it really relates to, that Mockingjay symbol. And so for anyone that hasn't seen the movies, the name Mockingjay comes from, it was sort of this unexpected accident that happens in nature, right? Where the capital, the controlling government, created a bird called the Jabberjay, which would basically spy on people and then come back and repeat, it would parrot what everybody was saying. And so it was kind of like a way of spying on people without having any real technology visible. So those birds weren't really fulfilling their purpose, and they went to exterminate every one of them. They ended up mating with mockingbirds to create this mockingjay. And in the books, it becomes the symbol of something that should not exist, and is basically just really putting, the thumb in the eye of this controlling government. And what I love about that whole piece is, to me, it just shows how nature always finds a way. I find that the energy of control, especially control out of fear, is completely unnatural to how the universe is really set up,
Yep.
And so nature always finds a way. You'll notice in every government that's ever tried to really control people, eventually it comes to an end. By
Yes.
one way or another, every empire falls, right? And it's always, there's simply because there's just no way to account for every little piece. You can't even control, you know, if you just think of DNA, like literally DNA is set up to evolve. So it is literally in every creature's DNA, the building blocks of what makes a plant, what makes an animal, to change. So
Yes.
there's no way you're going to control that. There's no way you could map out every single possibility. So that's kind of actually one of my bigger, um, one of my favorite things that from this whole series there is that you just have this defiance, right? Because you can't put a lid on it of something just that is just not meant to be. You
Yeah.
can't clamp down. So,
And it's
right.
funny because, you talk about this defiant, and to me, like sometimes, how she wants to stand up and kind of have this, she really wants to stand up for what is right, right? And what do you do what do you do when you're aligned with yourself, and what do you do when she stands up for what is right? So can we talk about, we had mentioned, that to me, like it's funny because when you want to talk about the the Hunger Games, to me, it was the what it reminded me of right away about Katniss is that she was an indigo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to talk about that?
Sure.
Being an
Yeah.
indigo?
Yeah, that's fine. We
Okay,
can cover that.
cool.
And
Okay.
it's funny. So, Isabel did mention, a few minutes before about kind of not wanting to get into labels, and so I'll just kind of I'll give my version of it, right? And like
Perfect.
like we
Yeah,
say in this show, if it doesn't resonate with you, don't take it. It's fine.
that's right.
But
Yeah.
so for me, indigo is just a term meaning, a person that has this spirit to come in and to change things, right? Qualities and traits include leadership, being able to take charge of something, and most importantly, there's something called the inability to dissociate. And I have to give credit to author Doreen Virtue for that one because she wrote it in her book, The Care and Feeding of Indigo Children, which I just loved. I mean, I picked up that book and started reading through it, and it was like, it was one of those, wow, did somebody write this just for me? This is amazing. So, I love that book, and what it talks about in there is just, again, having that spiritual life purpose. And so that's what the word means to me. Then there's also, how that is kind of applied to an entire generation of people. So when we look at our global purpose, what we really have is this big generation, like Isabel mentioned, the light workers. That was kind of like, people call it like the hippie generation or the flower generation. So
Yeah.
after World War II, World War II is one of the biggest, darkest times on the whole planet, right? So you had a lot of people praying for help and wanting to turn towards peace. So of course you have this huge peace and love generation. But then of course they kind of, they created a lot of change and then sort of got sidetracked by other careers or having families. And of course there's a lot of other, substance abuse and things like that going on in there. So a lot of change was created, but it didn't entirely stick. And then after that, they kind of gave birth to the indigo generation that came in. And what I mean by the inability to dissociate is you can't shut that off. You can't just turn a blind eye. Indigos are people that look at the news and say that this is BS, right? This isn't right. Something is wrong here, and you can't just turn away from it, or you can't just have an authority figure tell you to not worry about it. That's just not going to work.
Right.
Right, we're honestly not the easiest kids to raise. That's a complete admission. I was always getting in trouble for things, but it was like I would be the person to stand up to everybody else's bully, so I'd be like the bully to the bullies, right? And I would just tell, the protector, right? And just tell
Yeah.
everybody to kind of back off and, wanting to keep that peace. And I was also the first one. I went to Catholic school, so, I was always questioning these authority figures and telling them that, whatever they were talking about just didn't make sense. And, they would say, okay, well, we'll just move on. And, I'd kind of argue the point. So there's that inability to just dissociate yourself from those feelings of what is true for you in your heart. And I would say, you clearly see that with Katniss, right? She wears her heart on her sleeve. You can read her face,
Yep.
what you see is what you get kind of a character.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you guys you can't stand also, yeah, like lack of integrity if people lie, or and that's why for her, she sees everything that's happening with the people running this game, and she could tell, right,
Yep.
that something is not right. And then her spirit, really rises, and that can come in as some of you guys might feel like it might come in as anger, right? And that anger is kind of like that fire and what fuels you, to make the change, to make changes,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and it's perfectly, perfectly normal. At the same time, people who feel like that, they're also quite sensitive, right? So we got to make sure that you get like nice and clear. You go into nature, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Go into nature to get nice and clear. You can call on Archangel Michael to kind of like help you lift off any energies that don't belong to you if you feel like you've absorbed some of those things that are not yours, because you live oftentimes a very intense life because you do feel intensely, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of intensity around you and that you feel also inside. But it also gives you this amazing drive, right, to get things done. Just like, the reason why we started this show, right, Bernadette?
Yes, sure.
Right?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really it's really, really cool.
Right. And just to elaborate on what Isabella is alluding to is there were just I saw so many people saying I don't what's my life purpose, I don't know. And then I could feel the anger coming up inside me like, oh, come on, everybody, you already know, you just need a little help. So
Yeah.
fine, that's it, we're doing it. Indigos tend to have that ability to there's definitely a sense of claircognizance where you just clearly see, as a leader, okay, this is what has to get done. This is what we're doing. I was
That's it.
just, yeah, I was thinking earlier today where, there are definitely some sensitive people living their life purpose. And I was just going to say on the show, if you'd like to be coddled, you'll need to see Isabel. You will have to talk to her because, with this drive that I have, there's not often too much coddling. I have the ability, I can coddle, but for the most part, I
Yes.
tend to be, when working with other people, either I'm going to be somebody that we can work alongside, right, to get
Yep.
everything done, or somebody that can kind of just motivate everyone to keep everything moving. So, yes, absolutely. One other thing that I did want to mention, though, in terms of a message of hope, because that's what we would love to leave you with today. I just saw I've seen this latest film, The Mockingjay, a few times already, and one thing that I really picked up on was this almost like a dance or a balance between harmony, excuse me, between hope and despair, right? And
Yeah.
so even you can hear it even in the score of the film, that there's moments where there's this rising hope and you can feel your heart expanding, and then there's that kind of sadness and despair. So we definitely want to leave you everyone in the hope space. So again, here's that other spoiler alert where what happens in that final film is that they do win, right? So Katniss does live her purpose, and it's a hard road. I'm nervous about the next film because I know there's going to be a lot of tears shed, and it's just it can be a hard road, but it's worth it. They achieve that sense of freedom, I would say. I don't know if it's really a global peace in their universe, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. They're no longer sending these kids to go into an arena and kill each other, and I think that's something that I see in the world today is just when you look at humans as a species, it's almost incomprehensible as to why there would be so much self-harm toward a
Yes.
species, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking the other day, there's a few animal species out there I know that where they'll inflict some harm on each other. So I know we're not the only ones, but on a global scale, probably besides insects, we do some real damage to ourselves, and I feel it's almost like a shame because we're supposed to have this higher intelligence, right, and this higher order, and some of the stuff that we do to each other is just that's kind of where that despair can come from. And I understand people, please, when you're sometimes it's hard when you're living your life purpose, and if you look at the news a little too much, right, or if you listen to current events and things like that, it can feel and seem overwhelming.
Hmm.
And that's where that despair can kind of come from, where you just think I'm one person, what difference am I going to make?
Yeah.
Well, if we look to these movies that we're talking about, here's one person that does make a huge difference. And even if you don't have the time to go learn archery, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I'll tell you, I'm not an archer. I've tried. It's as cool as it would look.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
something,
hard,
it's not
right?
my, oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
just not for me.
No.
Yep. That's not a road I'm meant to go down, and that's fine because bring me to my next point that you living your own life purpose is something that's connected, and it kind of it's almost like a web, right? You know, you can really see this global web of people that when everyone's living their purpose, it's this beautiful harmony that we can create as an entire planet. You know, so if it's somebody's energy healing, another person's cooking, another person's dancing, another person's laughter, you know, and it's just like kind of this whole global community, right?
Yes. Yep.
So,
It's really
yeah.
good. And then you know what I wanted to touch on too before we do the meditation, and because I think it's an intricate part of the movies and the books. It's nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
How this book, these movies and these books, they really connect to nature. I know, like, so for those of you who might not have seen the movie, like the actual game takes place in it's like a forest, right? On and different elements, right? In the
Yeah,
second
so
episode, there's water. Like, what would you call that?
I'd say in the first film, it's definitely the forest and the trees, very earthy, and oh, you know, just and one of the aspects of that first film too, I just wanted to mention really quickly is
Sure, sure.
that in the first film, part of why I like it too is that it seems like the goddess Artemis come to life. Right, so the first time I saw the film, you know, you have Katniss, who's a hunter, you know, and she's in the forest, and she's ends up taking care of the little kid Rue, and you know, caretaker of children. So, just wanted to kind of throw that one in there. But so in the first movie, yeah, it takes place in this beautiful forest. It's kind of like the Appalachia of America, right? So you have, you know, it's like a lot of maple trees, hills, and mountains. And then in the second film, it's actually filmed in Hawaii. So you have, you know, that island, right? That island aspect to it.
Yeah. I didn't know it was filmed in Hawaii. How cool. Oh,
Kauai.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. Hawaii. Okay. Yeah. So, and then, so in I think it's in the second one, well, would they need, they need water, and then they receive one of this package through the game because you can get like a sponsor, right? And then they receive this little, I don't know, pipe or something, and they
A
can put
spile.
it, aspire. Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
spile. Yep.
In the tree, and then, then they can finally like have some water, right? Because they're really like surviving, in the forest. And I thought it's really cool to see, the sustenance that we do get, from the earth and from our planet, and how important it is. And even like when they have to survive and work with the animals and all that, there's a great respect, in all of that, and how we can really all work together and work in, it's funny you keep using that word harmony, but it's perfect, like in harmony with nature. And nature really is there to help us and to shelter us and to protect us. Even like the water is healing at some point. There's a scene where there's like this fog that kind of like attacks their skin, and it's like going right into the water. There's always like something that can help you and heal you and make you feel better.
Right.
I feel like a lot of our answers, is into nature. Even like if we look at the type of nutrition or what we put in our body, there's always like plants or things that, or herbs, and by all means I'm not a doctor, but things
Yeah.
that can like help you feel better than our, here we go, natural remedies.
Absolutely. Yeah, and even too, you know, Katniss and her mother and her sister are both. I'll use the word apothecaries,
Oh
right?
yes.
You know, and so they're
Yes.
people that make these tinctures and use the natural healing medicines to help and heal people and help others. Yeah, even in the last movie, the people of District 7, they run up and they hide in trees for their protection, right?
That's right.
There's
Yes.
one scene in there, and another group that when they destroy the dam, all that water comes in, right? And it
Yes.
washes everything away. Even, we can mention the biblical story of the flood, and I'll relate it back to the movie Noah, which I thought was a pretty cool movie. So in that movie, right, there's that flood kind of wipes everything away. But yeah, absolutely. That's why the first Hunger Games is my favorite, because you can just kind of, that sense of nature when Katniss, before she goes off into the games and she's clicking through all of those video cameras that the Capitol has on everywhere in the country. They have one set up kind of in her district, just in the woods, and she's clicking through the channels, and then she just stops and she's kind of like taken away, and that's like her home. That's just where she wants to be. So yeah, they get that sustenance from nature, right? Even
Yeah.
down to like the leather jacket and the leather boots, and everything is just very homely,
Oh,
right? She
nice.
feels
Yeah.
very safe,
Yeah.
here on the planet.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Bernadette. Like, why do these like books and movies, like, why did they have like such an impact on you? Like, what do you resonate with? Maybe like for some of our listeners too, they can understand, why. So why did this impact you so
Sure.
much?
So I saw the film before reading any of the
Oh,
books,
cool. Okay.
right? And
Mhm.
for me, honestly, again, it was, so I'm someone that, I think that bringing in the divine feminine energy is a really great piece to world harmony, right? It's
Okay.
just to help like rebalance everything. So kind of again seeing that goddess being displayed on screen was amazing, but it was just more so that empowerment, like that moment when Katniss says, "I volunteer." Every time it tears, I get teared up, I choke up, like every single time. It's so moving to me because it's just like such a moment of empowerment. That's just that one moment where you're like, I'm going to stand up and I'm
Yeah.
going to do whatever it takes. And this is
Yeah.
just what's happening right now. And she just stands up. Um, I've had to stand up for all kinds of things in my life, and I do it all the time. So it's just like
Hmm.
that resonance with like, okay, here's a role model. When I was a little kid, I looked up to big comic book characters like Batman, right? Like larger than life. But here you have somebody that's actually, it's more real.
Yes.
Even in the
Yeah.
films, by the third one, she's quite broken,
Hmm.
just mentally, emotionally, and you mentioned sacrifice. I actually think at the end of Catching Fire, she thinks she's dying because this hovercraft is coming to grab her. So
Yes.
she's, and that it's that last moment sacrifice where she's pretty sure what she just did just got her killed, but she feels like she did her job. There's like this sense of peace on her face that like, okay, I did it, right?
That's
And
it. Yeah.
yeah, she did it. So for me, what really grabbed me too was in that first film when it shows both sides. I actually prefer the movies to the books because it shows kind of both sides of what happens in Katniss's world, and then in this other world that's kind of trying to control everything. So you see, both aspects of that. So I thought that was just, to me, it was like this is something that's really speaking to what's going on today, right? And so it's really moving for me because you just get inspired by it, like, okay, if this character can do it, then I feel like let me do something too.
Yes, yeah. Very nice. So it's empowering, and it's kind of like like a role model, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it brings you like, oh, why not me, right? Why couldn't I do that? And I can
Sure.
do that in my everyday life. Okay.
Sure.
It's very inspiring. There we go.
Yeah,
So what
and
I was looking for.
there's even an aspect too where Katniss doesn't actually want to kill anybody, right? And you see that kindness as well. So as much as I love that fiery, going to kick some ass in your face side of
Yep.
everything,
Yeah.
there is that gentleness to her, and there is that she'd probably rather just be sitting at home on the couch with the family kind of an aspect to her, but she's like, oh, okay, this is what has to get done, so we've got to go do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's
Beautiful.
very, and like I said, there are people in Thailand as we speak,
That's
doing the
amazing.
Hunger Games, so it's not just it's not just a child's movie, right? Like this is legitimately something that's moving people, and I think sometimes people feel like they've just kind of had enough, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
when you feel like you've had enough, what do you do? And what is that point at which you say, okay, if I do nothing, everything is going to continue on this path.
Yeah.
And it seems like that path sucks and it's just going to be worse and worse. But if I do something and I'm well prepared to do this thing and there are people to join me on this journey, then things are going to change.
That's it. And like we said, you receive the help, right? Once you
Right.
step in to whatever you're meant to be doing, the help comes. Like things flow, things come together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Even, I feel like I want to add to just that aspect of truly being yourself, right? So in that first Hunger Games, when she shows them what she can do, she shoots the arrow and she misses, right?
Yes.
And then that's her trying to put on a show. But then she gets furious because she missed and they're not paying any attention to her, that she shoots an arrow right at these people, which would be completely unheard of to. She's making a threat, all right? She's not just getting their attention. That's making a clear threat. So I think that moment of just like really being yourself, what's true for you in your heart, has the power to change the world. There's just, to me, this is the most beautiful thing, right, that you could ever possibly put on film. So yeah,
Yes. Beautiful.
absolutely.
We can feel your passion with this. You can
Ah,
feel like how connected you are. Remember, this is really neat, because sometimes all you need is something that inspires you to just open up your heart and just to get you going into what you're meant to be doing.
right.
Yeah.
So, and I would say, one other thing that I love and wanted to share for anybody that's doing their life purpose work, again, um, 'cause I'm sure people will be listening to this on rebroadcast, is that even through all the hard times that we do mention, Katniss keeps this book, right, of all the good things that have happened. So that just to me was also another beautiful reminder. It's in the end of the last book where they just want to kind of keep a memory of like all these wonderful and beautiful things. And so if there's anyone that's kind of like starting, or even if you're in the middle of your own life purposing journey, that might be something that might kind of help you as well. So it's just, you have something that you kind of keep just remembering all the good and beautiful moments when you have that little dip, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
I
Beautiful.
think out of that. So
Beautiful. Okay. So how about we do a nice little meditation now?
that
Does that
sounds
feel good,
great.
or do you want to
Yes.
share
Oh,
anything else about the movies or the books?
no, it's thank you to everyone who listened to me talk about this wonderful thing that I love. Yeah, absolutely. Hope it helps.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. So let's get nice and comfortable. So I'm just gonna do like a nice little meditation for all of you, listening to the show. What I would just ask you is not to listen to this, in your car. I'm just gonna ask you if you can listen to this, in a place where you can be like nice and comfortable, either laying down or sitting, but whatever feels good to you. Just not in a moving object, if possible. That would be great. And then so that's it. So get nice and comfortable. And I'm just gonna bring in some beautiful, beautiful angelic energies. And to keep, with the theme of our radio show today, we're gonna talk about hope. And I'm just gonna add some nice little, clearing things in there to really help you and start setting the foundation for your life purpose if it's something you feel like, you really want to step into. Okay, so I would like you to just get nice and comfortable and just take a nice deep breath in and let it out. And just close your eyes. There's no right or wrong way to do this, okay? All you have to do is just listen to the sound of my voice and just let your body do the rest as you listen, to the suggestions that are coming up. So easily and effortlessly closing your eyes, breathing in and out. And I would like you to imagine yourself into a beautiful, beautiful bubble of white light. So just whether you see that bubble, perhaps you feel it, or you know that it's here, it's perfect. Beautiful. And we're going to bring in a beautiful beam of white light that's going to come straight through your body from the top of your head all the way down to the bottom of your feet. And you're surrounded by beautiful angelic beings in this white bubble of light. And these magnificent angels are going to come through for you. And some of you might feel them, might feel a little warm, or you might see certain colors, or might just imagine that they're there. And we have a beautiful angel that's all green. All I see is this beautiful green light that's coming in right into your heart center. And this is the angel of hope. And what he's going to do in your heart center is going to start like clearing things out, old emotions, old experiences that no longer serves you. It's almost like clearing out a closet, right? So let this angel, this energy lift up anything that you no longer served you. Maybe it had a purpose back in the day, but in truth, if you look at today, you don't need certain things anymore. Whether they're relationships that are unbalanced, whether it's your work, your finances, your health, anything that felt hopeless, this angel will take care of it for you. You don't have to do anything, just let the angels help you. Beautiful. And as you notice, some things might get pulled out of your heart center that feel like real sadness, some despair. But we're really going to ignite this energy of hope, and you're going to feel like kind of like a fire, starting to ignite. And you might see and feel some really beautiful, beautiful colors starting in your heart center. While this beautiful angel of the green light works on you, we're going to ask Archangel Michael to come in. So, Archangel Michael is connected with the color blue, dark blue, or purple. For those of you who see color, and for those of you who feel more or know more, he's gonna feel really warm. What he does is he ignites our passion. He shows us the path of our life purpose, right? So he clears out all the debris. So we're going to ask him to clear anything that's been holding you back, anything that you no longer need. And the way we're going to do that, I would like you to easily and effortlessly imagine a beautiful purple bag in front of you. Like it's this velvety purple bag, and it's surrounded by like a beautiful golden rope, and the bag is nice and open. I would like you to just take a moment and put in there everything that you don't want anymore, everything that you don't need, any worries, any sadness, anything that weighed you down, whether it's your health, your work, your boyfriends, girlfriends, your friends, your coworkers, anything that's going on in your life that you're like, you know what, God, you know what, angels, I'm done with this. Go for it. Just dump it all in there, and really like with intent, right? You have a lot of angels surrounding you right now. So just go for it. You're not alone, right? Just like we talked earlier, you have a lot of help around you. And as you do that, we're going to have Mother Nature and the help of all our beautiful trees just come and surround you. Beautiful. I'm just going to give you a moment. Just put it all in there. All in there. Any imbalances, anything that made you feel like you were alone. Beautiful. We're going to clear anything that made you feel powerless. Anything or anyone that had power over you, or any situation in which you felt powerless. We're going to put that all in there. Very good. Any abusive patterns, we're going to release all of that. Very good. And for some of you, we're going to call on Archangel Raziel if you resonate with that, and he's the Archangel of past lives. And so if there's any patterns, any contracts or promises that were made in past lives that no longer serves you as of today, this angel is going to help you release all of that. You don't have to do anything, just your permission. That's all. Beautiful. And now Archangel Michael, once you're done pouring everything into this bag, Archangel Michael is going to tie that golden rope over it. And he's going to send that bag away. It's done. It's dissolved for your highest best and your highest good. This bag completely dissolved is handed out to his band of mercy that takes care and clears out any and all negativity from your life. You are done. This is now dissolved. And notice this beautiful, beautiful light that's going to come right up your body. And for that, the archangel that's coming in for you guys is Archangel Ariel. Archangel Ariel, she's the archangel that takes care of our material needs. She's also the archangel that oversees Mother Nature. She's the archangel of our animals, right? And she has this beautiful, beautiful, rich, wealthy, gold energy. And I would like you to imagine with your feet, right, touching the ground, just imagine this beautiful gold color coming from underneath your feet with Archangel Ariel just raising all this up. Very good, all the way up towards your knees. Beautiful. And keep breathing all the way up. This is a huge, huge like to replenish you, right? Replenishment energy all the way up to your hips. And just breathe this into your belly. And beautiful. And breathe it up even more into your heart center, your lungs, like you fill in with this beautiful gold energy. And as you breathe, you can feel all that oxygen going right into your lungs, into your arms, your hands, Beautiful, coming all the way up to your neck, releasing any tensions from your back, your neck. Beautiful. And it's going to fill up your head, rebalancing all the waves and hemispheres of your brain, left brain, right brain, rebalancing all your ideas, your mental body. Beautiful. And coming all the way up to your crown, which is on the top of your head. Beautiful. And to close, now that you are nice and filled up with beautiful, yummy energy, Archangel Michael is going to place you into a beautiful 3D purple pyramid. All you have to do is imagine it, whether you see it or you know what a pyramid looks like. Just place yourself in there. Archangel Michael is going to completely unfold his wings or increase his light for those of you who can see him or feel him or know that he's here. Beautiful. Just your intention is there. And going forward, know that Archangel Michael is with you always. You can always ask for his help or any of the angels. That's their purpose. Talk about life purpose. The purpose of the angels is to bring peace. They're messengers and they are here to help you, because what would bring you peace is if you feel peaceful inside, is if all those things that were bothering you are removed. So now just take a nice refreshing breath. Beautiful. Very good. Very nice. And take another nice deep breath. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 3. And on the count of 3, you will open up your eyes, feeling better than you have felt in a long time. 1. Inhale. Beautiful. 2. Remembering everything that you've experienced today and holding on to this wonderful feeling that you have. Beautiful. And 3. Opening up your eyes. Beautiful. So now just let your awareness come back fully into your body. You're nice and present, ready to go for the rest of your day and your evening. And I wanted to thank you for sharing this beautiful meditation with you. You know, as we enter this holiday season, great, great messages of love and hope. And so you guys can do anything that you are meant to be doing and that you have the courage to do it, because it's so, so, so rewarding. And that's what I'm going to leave you with today.
Great. Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you. That was perfect, and thank you for sharing that with our listeners. So we'll thank everybody for joining us today, and I think all of the goodness has already been said. So hopefully, this we'll get this meditation out on YouTube as well, so you guys can listen in later. So it's there for you when you need it. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy the holiday season. We will be back live on December 18th. So you'll get to hear us talk about Life Purpose 101. So all the stuff and words and definitions and things that you've been hearing you might not know a lot about, we're going to cover that as well. So we look forward to
seeing you
hey,
then.
yeah, we'll
That's right.
talk to you then.
Okay,
All
perfect.
right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.